Those last days were filled up with voices that turned their own volume far too loud. And voices that are noises about justice regularly, but now are silent inside of me. These last days. My interdependent heart became broken. My queerness was erased. My migration was unheard. My blackness offered only a destroyed hope for a community that cares. Those last days, my so often unheard, my so often lonely, my so often unknown queer identity wasn't seen. It was about every other oppression, hope and boundary. It was not about us. We have names. We have stories. We are so diverse it became hard to build up boundaries. Our fights are so different from each other, so different it's hard to find even words. We are those of double, triple and so on diaspora. We are those who are too white for being murdered by black communities in Germany. We speak only colonialized languages, so you don't see us as that black, forgetting our history. Our skin is sometimes lighter. It's a history of abuse. It's a history of destroying every part of our souls they could get. And replaced it with Spain, French, and we were too black to forget our ancestors. We turned colonialist languages into our own. We challenging colonialist pictures in our resistance, but we stay away from your hearts. I see your struggles to compensate this. You know, siblings from the continent, what we call ourselves. And I hear the voices of white queers running around telling every magazine it's about your bodies, but it's not. It's about your desire, but it's not. It's about your struggles and history that have been necessary because of your ancestors, that have been challenged by my ancestors. And you call us gays, and you call us family, and you cry in every camera you can get, and you're on the covers of every magazine. But I don't understand it. In fear and sadness we stay in old behaviors, and as the old behaviors of latinx is to try to handle all the emotions and fears inside of our families, your behavior is to steal every second of attention and resource, because your heart was healing faster. Because after you start realizing you're fearing the Muslim man, you realized you aren't the real target. And you can use us again. It is a Latinx thing. We built a word that isn't splittable to reduce us on just queerness or just blackness or just Spanish. A word that connects us. A word that connects our soul parts. A word that describes the struggles of my siblings, of my family, over there. It's not a queer safer space because of cis and hetero hate. It's not a migrant safer space against deportation and racist violence. These are spaces that are both and more and over that, where we share the boundaries and combination of struggles. The empty pockets, because when you don't have papers, there is no reason to carry an empty purse around that fits perfectly on your white genderqueer body, where we celebrated our diversities, our souls, languages and dances. Too white to be African, enough for your tears. Too white to be African, enough for your tears. Too white to be African, enough for your tears. Too machismo to be seen as consequences of white colonial manipulation, too black to fulfill your nowadays empty queer that is just for white cis men, too migrant to lift our voices that are switching between realities because they all build our realities. Just too much and too concrete. Too much a fight that can only be seen in the US context of migration politics against states that are part of the US but just for good, not for nation. It's a latinx thing. And this is how you silenced us. In white tears that are already overwhelmed by the idea of queers of color, in black German spaces that are already overwhelmed by the idea of being black German and proud of their mothers and heritages, in of color groups that are overwhelmed by the anti-Muslim agenda, the erasure of queer Muslim lives and stories and hearts, in my communities of queers of color, all too hurted by the news, shots on a club of color to hear and feel the latest news and names that are written also in my passport. It's a oppression thing. How can I raise my voice if we are all so hurted, destroyed and killed? How can I address the missing link between racism and anti-queerness that is written in the Latinx history by implementing the idea of machismo into our hearts? How can I address that my family stays silent? Some because they are hurt, as Latinos and Latinas. Some because they are influenced by the colonialized ideas of gender and overwhelmed by my tears. Some because their friends' hope and love died in this night in Orlando. Some because they stopped writing their feelings and opinions down because we are so less. Why even care about Latinx? We are a group, in a group, in a group, in a so why even care when there are so many other fights? Why should we share when our history is a story of being split from the continent we called home? Being split from our countries we built it up just so the white man could come to drain us. Being split from our communities because we are not just queer, not just Latins, we are Latinx. Why should we still hope to be heard? It is just a Latinx thing.